Welcome, guys, to the Christian Podcast 101. And it's been a year since I've released, or it's been a year since I've been here, but it's been a long time. I know that a couple of people have been shouting at me to come back on a pod. Yeah, so we're back, bro, and we're back with one of my guys, one of my boy, my Killy, my Chargy.
Come on.
Shadey. And we're going to talk about how he came to Christ. We're going to talk about his music. And we're just going to talk about how his journey to Christ, isn't it? So it's going to be a powerful episode. And I think for me to come back and bring Shadey on, I think it's like another different level, innit?
Come on, man. Round of applause in the place, man. Round of applause
in the
place, man.
All glory goes to God, innit? Because, it's been a tough season, but just got to charge it, bro.
Charge it, bro. We back and better.
All right, cool. So yeah, bro, introduce yourself, innit?
Yeah, Shadey, young Shadey. You already know the time and place, man. Where there's shade, there's light. Got it from my brother, but inspired by God. Yeah, as he said, a young Christian rapper. He's a Christian. I'm on all socials, TikTok, Insta, and we're just, glorifying God in everything we do. So honor today. Thank you for having me today, bro. If I'm a bit shaky, it's been a while, but I think we'll have some fun. We'll have some fun.
Okay, just to get to know you more a bit, like, what did you study, and like, are you still in uni, or are you like in a career place? Like what's happening now?
So literally just finishing my master's degree. So I did a master's degree in operational and strategic management.
Right.
And so that's been my last year. Last 4 years I've been at university. And I'm literally about to finish that now, glory to God. And I've been doing that while doing music at the same time, doing content at the same time, and just trying to, kind of use all the gifts God's given me. So yeah, that's been my last kind of 4 years, and it's been quite good. It's been challenging, been very difficult, but God always comes to the best, so we thank God for it.
That's good, man. Okay, cool. So then the first question I want to ask you is that, like, how did you come into Christ? Like, did you grow up in a Christian family? Did you always know about like God? Like, how was your encounter with Christ? Like, how did you get to know him? Like, you can talk about.
Yeah, so first and foremost, I'm a PK, I'm a pastor's kid. So I'm sure a lot of people can relate. When you are a pastor's kid, you're heavily involved in the church. It's just a natural thing. But even though I knew of God, I didn't know who God was to me. So till about 18, 19, I was just serving. I was always in the church. I was always lifting chairs. I was always making it happen. But I didn't know anything of God. And if anything, it kind of made me distance further from God, because it was always like my relationship with God was a pressure. It felt like my relationship with God was like an obligation. Never really out of true, like authentic love. So yeah, for the first couple of years of my life, I was always just going to church, but never really listening. It's always at the back. When service is done, I'm excited to go home. And as a young person, I didn't really think God was relevant to me. It actually, when I got to around 18 and 19, where I actually found out who God was through a lot of different situations. I don't know if you want to get into it, but basically that's how even the name Shadey comes from. Wherever there's shade, there's light. There was a lot of darkness in my life. I was quite an angry person, just going through a lot. And I was in a very dark position in my life where God actually still managed to find the light. John 1:5 says, even when the darkness shines, when light shines, darkness can never overcome it. And I feel like that's been my life. And that's how I kind of got closer to God.
Okay, that's good. Okay, cool. So I want us to dive in.
Yeah, that's it.
And then be transparent.
That's it.
This is a very transparent topic, transparent podcast, isn't it? So you spoke about the dark times in your life.
Yeah.
What was the dark times in your life? I
wouldn't say it was even dark times. It was a dark state. I grew up in Croydon. It was my environment. If you already know about the ends and you already know where you're coming from, you're surrounded by violence. You live in it. You thrive in it. It's all built of pride. It's all built of competition. And that was what I was. In secondary school, I was always angry. I was always the one trying to be the class clown. I was always fighting a lot. And I was always trying to get the girls. You know what I'm trying to say? Let's keep it real. I was always trying to get the girls. So that was what I thrived off. That was what I wanted to, live off. So those dark times, what I would say, was when everything started to come crashing down. So those dark times were when I basically started getting involved in more around people that weren't maybe too good for me. And in terms of, it was a lot of fighting, it was a lot of violence, and then a lot of sickness. And this is where I get into the main part, is when my mum got sick. So when I was around 18 to 19, my mum actually got cancer. Yeah, my mum got cancer. That's when I actually first kind of had my proper encounter with God. So basically what happened is, I found out, basically she told all my siblings that we all needed to come down. I've got siblings in Northampton, Liverpool, so they've all come down. And the parents said, we're having a meeting. We're all thinking, yeah, they're probably telling us they're moving to Nigeria or something because it's a big meeting. And then she basically said, yeah, my mum basically said we had cancer. She had cancer. And when I found out, I fell to my knees crying. And for the very first time in my life, I really felt powerless. I really felt like this angry guy who's been getting all the girls and been winning all the beef. It didn't mean anything. It felt like it was just like a passing moment. So that's when I actually I will never forget. I went upstairs and I basically went on my knees and I said, God, please save my mum. Please save my mum. And then this was the first time I actually heard God's words in my heart. He basically said to me, how do you want me to save your mum if you haven't even saved yourself? And I was like, fam, you get me?
Bro,
I was like,
deep,
bro, this is peak. Like, I remember I was praying. I was like, but it was almost from a place of just save her.
Yeah.
I don't even care about my relationship. You just save her.
Yeah,
so that was he was like, how do you want me to save you? You haven't saved yourself. So for the next couple of weeks, I had to get to a position of even if he didn't save her, God, I need to trust that you have everything under control. Yeah. God, I need to trust that, it's all by your power. And so that's how I first had my encounter with God. But yet, like I said, darkness wasn't times, it was a state. I was surrounded by it. I was still around people that were, man, them, you got to back the beef. I was still around people where, girls are always around you. So temptation's always there. So even though I had an encounter with God, I still didn't build in a relationship with him. So I don't know if you want me to go more into that, but that was how my life looked at the start of it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Just continue to like elaborate. So, how did you get closer to God? So you said that was that state whereby you said your mum had cancer. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that led you to get closer to God.
Yeah.
And then what happened afterwards?
Okay. So just for context sake, in that kind of moment, secondary, we're not going to talk about primary, A-levels, start of A-levels, I was just always, Shadey was always just known as the funny guy. But I don't know if you don't know, the funniest guys have the biggest temper. You get me? So I was always the funny guy, but don't take it too far. You get me? I was always the funny, and you violate me. I got so much pride because I was always known as to myself. I was always Shadey, that guy. You get me? I was always telling myself, you got to move a certain way. You have to have people respect you. So as soon as that respect was tested, that's when I got angry. That's when I was always around people that were kind of right. You're gonna have that. You get me? So that was always my life. Is when I got to around, I would say sixth form, my second year, and then uni fell off in first year. Second year came back to it, if I'm being completely transparent. It was when my mum got ill around end of sixth form, spoke to God. First year I fell off. So it's around second year, that's when I really started to, build on my relationship with God. And when I really started building my relationship with God, it's actually funny because it wasn't, I didn't do it because I wanted to. I think I did it because I needed to. So why I say that is because I was at uni. Bro, if you've been to uni, you already know, your distractions are so countless. You got girls there, you got your madam there, you got your peoples there, you got the vibes there. So I had everything. And coming out of my house, Christian Nigerian household, I finally had freedom. You see, with me, I never had that restriction of you have to be home at 10, 11. So when I was going to uni, I thought, bro, nothing's going to be different. But when you go to uni, it's actually mad. Because sometimes you sit down and I'm like, I can actually do anything. I had the freedom that was crazy. You get me? So when I've come to uni now, I had that freedom. I had the girls there. I had the mandem there. I was in the motives there, getting lit and everything, which is not necessarily you can still enjoy yourself. Don't get me wrong. But I think it became my desire, became my foundation, which was terrible. Right? So now here's how God came into it. Because when I had everything, I still felt empty. When I had everything, I still didn't feel happy. When I had everything, I had the status, I had the vibes, it still felt meaningless to me. And that's when I realized that it went back to the initial point where I encountered God, where I still feel powerless. There was still something in me that didn't make me feel, happy. It was still something. And then I remember just walking on a Sunday, and I walking past the church, and I just went in there. Just something in my spirit to just go in there. Just go in there. And I went there, and that's how I basically started going to church, and I found out who God was for myself, in a sense that I always knew of him. I knew different aspects, but then I actually wanted to build a consistent relationship with him, where I was, studying the word, and I was actually talking to God more with my friends or my brother. I got my close friend Elliot right there. You get me? So we was just talking about God. We was just chopping it up, right? And I was surrounding myself with a community that was important.
So I got a quick question. So you said that you saw a church. Was it in uni or was it uni? Okay, it was in uni.
Yeah.
And you went in, and then did that. So that was your first. Would you say that was your second or third encounter with God?
Oh, listen, let me say one thing, yeah? I feel like, you see when everyone has this date where they've given their life to Christ, I don't have that date. I have an encounter, but I'll say, bro, I used to give my life to Christ so many times.
Every single Sunday,
I couldn't count. And that's me keeping it real. And that's not me saying I did it because I enjoyed it. That's me saying it because I was built on this thing with God where I forgot who God was to me and I didn't know who God actually was in the sense that if you made a mistake and you kept sinning, you just got to keep giving forgiveness. So because that happened so many times, bro, I didn't even know when I gave my life to Christ. So I don't know if that was my 100th counter, I don't know my 50th counter, and I don't care how many times it was, but I can say that when I started when I went to that church, that was actually a time I can reference in my Christian walk where I was actually saying, I'm going to try to be consistent. Okay, cool. You get me? So it was never really the time of an encounter, but it was the time when I'm going to say, I'm actually going to try to be consistent in my relationship. So I'll be on God, maybe for like 2-3 weeks, I'm on my thing, then I might fall back a bit, beat myself about it. This is too long. Cycle, I was in that kind of cycle. So my love for God was always there, but the consistency wasn't. And I think that's where, that's when I really referenced the church of saying, because it was, and I think it was like a Hillsong church. I'm growing up from a very Pentecostal Nigerian black church. They always yeah. But this was a white church. They were on their guitars like, Hosanna, Hosanna. But it made me even look at God differently. It was like, bro, there's so many different aspects to God that I didn't even really. God, so I went there and I was just like, this feels nice. It feels safe. It feels warm again. And I was like, someone told me, how do you want to leave this? How do you want to keep leaving this? So that's why I would say it wasn't really my first encounter, but it was one that made me say I want to be consistent with him.
Okay, cool. So what would you say to the people who are trying to be consistent with the relationship with God? Like, what advice would you give to them? Because I can't lie, sometimes, in life, it's like, we say we're going to get close to God. We get closer to God. Give it 2 to 3 weeks. We're back to our old cycle. Or back to our old lifestyle. Like, it's like, I don't know. Maybe it's built on our habits, our mentality. So what would you say to someone who's been like going back to the old sin? You know how the Bible talks about a dog vomits and then and then picks up his own vomit, whatever you call it. What advice would you give to someone?
All right, cool. So I'll break it down into 3 points. The first is community. Because I'm going to be real with you. Coming into this Christian walk, I used to just say stuff like, well, you just got to go read your word. You got to just get me. Try to stay away from certain songs. Bro, there's actually certain things you actually have to do. I've learned there's actually certain principles you need. And this isn't me trying to say, like, if you don't have this, you're flopping us hand. This is me saying from my personal perspective, if I didn't have these things, I don't know how I could do this. So first is community. In the Bible, it talks about in Hebrews. Is it Hebrews or Corinthians where it talks about character?
Bad company corrupts good character.
Good character. Yeah. So I used to see that scripture and I'd be like, bro, you get me? Like that's not that deep. But actually being in uni and being around people, you realize the power of subconscious influence and conscious influence. When there's people saying, I do that or don't do that, and it's why I say subconscious is because sometimes they won't even say it. It's just that you'll just be in the presence of it and you naturally want to do it. So why I say community is you need a community because not only do you need iron around you, you need somewhere you can be transparent. You need somewhere you can communicate. You need somewhere you can feel safe. One thing I hate so much and I just really despise it is someone feeling like they're gonna go, let's say, just be on TikTok looking at all these different preachers and think they can stay at home. Your relationship with God is so sensitive that you need almost so many people around you to hold it up. And why I say that further is because you see so many scriptures in the Bible where God will surround great people or great women and great men with great people. So you see it with Moses at the top of the mountain where his arms begin to fall, and then you see Aaron hold his arms up. There's so many people you need in your life.
Even Jesus needed 12 disciples.
12 disciples. And I don't say that as a bro, just get people. I said you need it. So if you feel like you can do this Christian thing by yourself, personally, I'm telling you, I don't think you can. I feel like you need a community around you that holds you up. The second thing I do feel like you need is leadership. And I don't say that out of a place of you can't learn for yourself, can you study? But you need someone, for me, I needed someone I could be accountable to. So I go to a church called Ark and I have a pastor called Omar and I'm very accountable to him in terms of I know I can speak to him and have a relationship with him. In the Bible, it talks about in Proverbs, it says, a people will fall with a lack of leadership, but one with counselors are safe. So when I really read that, I used to feel like, bro, I could do this with my boys. Because I had the community, but I don't have leadership. But there's some things you actually realize when you're listening to your it doesn't mean to be your pastors, but your elders or someone that you can look up to, you realize that, bro, there's actually so much I didn't know, and there's so much I can still learn. And the third thing I think you need to realize if you want to grow in this relationship with God is, I say, just freedom. I say freedom. And when I say freedom, it's not freedom to do sin. It's freedom to allow yourself to make mistakes and not beat yourself up about it. It's freedom to say, you know what, I messed up, but you know what, it doesn't mean anything. Nothing can separate me from God's love. And why I left this for the last point, because it's actually the most important. The reason I was still in this cycle is because I didn't know the freedom I had. The reason I was still in this cycle of always going back to my vomit was always like, I messed up. I thought, man, let me just leave this, man. I'm done. I linked that girl. I kept linking the girl. I realized that, bro, I made the wrong decisions. Let me just, you know what I'm saying? God, forget it. But then there's a freedom in Christ saying, even if you did make a mistake, even if you did do something wrong, like, he doesn't care. Yeah. He doesn't care. He cares about you. You get me? So why I always say that is because that is my foundation of me continuing to walk with God. Because bro, when I make mistakes and when I think when I do so many wrong things, I always go back to that. But you're free in Christ, man. Nothing can hold you down. And that does give me also a joy to know that there's decisions I can make where I was in a position where I don't say you should be going parties and all of these things where you just leave that to yourself. But when I went for a time, I was like, I can't even go parties. I can't do anything. I can't. And if anything, I felt like I was oppressing myself. I felt trapped. And I was like, is this what the Christian thing feels like? It doesn't. And this is me being transparent. This is how I felt. I felt trapped. But then God gave me the freedom. It says you can do all things, but not all things are beneficial. So what I realized is that the freedom in Christ gave me the ability to make decisions that was beneficial to my relationship, wise, and that things that I actually wanted to do. So sometimes if my boy's having my guys having a barbecue, I'm there. I can be having fun, and I can, you get me? And I started to learn the different aspects of the Christian walk and how beautiful it actually is. You can still be young and have fun and be a Christian. You can still be young and have fun, and you get me, and do so many things that are beneficial. So I feel like those are, I would say, community, leadership, and freedom are the main 3 points, I would say.
I agree with you. Just to even add on to your point, I feel like even in relation with God, like that is, what I'm going to say might sound crazy. You actually don't need to read the Bible or pray. All you need to do is get into a group of people, and they will help you get into that state. You know what I'm trying to say? Because you might try to do it by yourself, but you're going to fall. Why? Because you don't have people around you. You know what I'm trying to say? I said before, even Jesus needed 12 disciples. Why? Because he needed community. So I agree with you. But also, let's just talk about, so I think I watched your TikTok. I've seen I've probably seen all your TikToks, bro.
I think you see your TikTok. You saw the TikTok.
I've seen it, bro. I've seen all the TikToks in it. Cool. So you did a how can I word it? Oh God, English is not flowing. Like, I think you did one about the story of Alex. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And I think you did 3 parts. That went viral. Yeah. But one that I want to like actually go into is that you did one about a knife on your left and then a Bible on the right. I don't know if that's. I don't remember. Yeah. So can you elaborate on that? Like you said, you had like a knife or like a Bible.
Oh, okay. So let me even remember what you're talking about. I think I was straight after the story of Alex, and I think I did a freestyle. Yeah. And basically, what happened? What I was speaking about was, I think I was just speaking about my journey in life. Okay. So going back to the point about leadership, my brother is a leader to me. I look up to him and he inspires me, right? And he was a big reason I even got saved as well in terms of being consistent, because Shadey, I'm wise Shadey, so my older brother still Shadey, shout out. He was in the gang. He was on it. He was crazy. And I used to always look up to him. He was my leader in that aspect. Okay. I will never forget when I was young, we just come off the tram with two of my brothers, and he's seen like basically ops. You see, and then them man have just punched them up. Damn. And I'm watching them, but there's 12 of them and just 2 of my brothers, but they handled them, innit? When the ambulance came and the feds came, I remember I patting them, I was crying, I was like 10, I was like, I just want my brothers, I just want my brothers. And I say, like, basically they bust, innit? So they pattern. So when we was walking home, like, he just gassed me up, like, you do your thing, innit? I had a bunk bed with him. So, I remember one time he got stabbed, and my parents didn't know. He just came home and he showed me the thing, and I was just looking at him like, this is hot. This is my cool guy. Yeah. So from young, I always wanted to be involved in that violence. Okay. There was times I carried a knife. I didn't tell people. I used to carry a knife because basically when I used to have beef with people, you have this idea that it's not even like I was going to use it. It's like, if anyone you feel a bit more, I used to have it sometimes, or I used to park it. What you do is you park it, because you can't bring it to school. You used to park it in the bushes. So one time I just used to have something parked all the time. And I used to get into a lot of fights. So they put me in ADHD classes when I was from secondary, and which was actually a bad thing, I think, because from young it was like you diagnosed me with something that I didn't even think I had. I think I just needed a bit of love again. You get me? I felt I needed someone to talk to, but they was telling me you got problems. You get me? They was telling me you got. So from what I'm trying to basically present to you is everything around me was just forcing me to a knife. Knife not necessarily just being a knife, but knife being violence, being away from God. Then when I got older, like I mentioned before about God and my mom and everything just being a light, what basically rebranding what Shadey meant, there was a Bible. But I feel like what was still important is that even if I saw the Bible, and even if I had God, my knife was still always there. My life was always still a lot of violence. There was always still people around me that were still involved in violence. My thing was, I was never in a gang, but well, you think my boy could be in beef and I'm going to watch him be in beef. And because my boys were involved in a lot of stupidness, I'll be beefing people that I'll have problems with people. I didn't even know why. You get me? Just out of pride, I've got to protect my boy. So there was always still that pride and that obligation and that loyalty to the man them. There was still that loyalty to the ends. You get me? And sometimes even to this day, sometimes I feel like I'm saved, but God forbid someone tried to beef Elliot. You get me? Because it's like, that's me being transparent. Because you could beef me, I'll walk away. This is me being real. But I'm like,
that's
bro,
blood,
what?
bro.
You think I would have had someone punch Elliot? But that's why I'm always got to go back to God. I'm like, please, just get me, ground me, keep me grounded, help me ground. And that's what I'm trying to say. There's freedom in Christ and saying you can be honest with God and be like, this is how I am. Because I know how I am. I'm very protective. So in that sense of knife and Bible, it was always the sense of what I know is right, but what the loyalty and what obligation tells me. And I say at one time, I said I was sitting on the bed holding a Bible and a knife. I think it's Deuces you might be talking about. I think that's the one. And it was just like, I still always sometimes spirit versus flesh have those moments where I'm like, bro, I can't take a violation. But bro, I know what God tells me to turn the other cheek. So it's always still that battle sometimes you go through as a Christian. And, you know, that's why I say community is around you. Surround yourself with people that, you know, sometimes when you don't know what to do, they can advise you to do better on leadership and everything. So yeah. When my brother did get saved, it was mad because he was the same one getting stabbed that's now telling me, bro, you gotta come on, you get me? So I was like, how did you be so far gone and now you're the one that's helping me? You was the one that was you was doing, I don't even, one day he'll come on to do the podcast. He was doing mad things and I'm watching him. Sometimes I hated police because one time I was in home, I was eating Pounder Jam, I was watching One Piece, boom, first knock on my door, they've come in my room, remember I said I shared a room with my brother, they've raided our room, and you know when feds raid your room, they don't tidy it up, so they've raided it, they've slapped it up. I hate feds, like, I hated them so much, like, you just why you always beefing my brother? Why you always arresting me? Like, why you always, you get me? So there was always that hate and all of that. So that was always the battle but luckily, you know, God always keeps your heart, man. It's not by own strength. So you thank God for it.
That's good, man. Okay, cool. So when you came to Christ here, has there been ups and downs? And what has been your biggest test in life?
Damn, you're asking some crazy questions. Yeah, 100% there's been ups and downs. Mate, there's ups and downs that happened yesterday. You get me? There's always ups and downs. You feel overwhelmed at times. But if you're talking about the biggest down, I would probably say, if I could pinpoint, I'd say the biggest down, I think, would mainly be, I think it could be relationships. Okay. If I'm keeping it honest, it could either be relationships or maybe loss. I think I'll go with relationships because that's me. Because I feel like that's more honest. I'm a lover boy. You get me? Whether I was in the world, if I'm a Christian, I'm a lover boy. It's my foundation. You know, I love hard.
It's like you know them people who like, it's like they wanna. I feel like they have a heart.
I've always had a good heart. I've always had a good heart.
It's like because it's because that you'll be radical to do anything. You also be radical in love as well.
Yeah. So which is dangerous.
It's like David. You know when David with Bathsheba, because David loved God so much, and he loved God so much, he was willing to kill people for God, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's kill people
to hide what he was doing.
He was willing to like do the things of God, or he was willing to like go the extra mile for God. Go the extreme rules. But however, when it came to love, remember what he did to Uriah? He actually killed someone for another man's wife because of what? Love. Yeah. But you can say lust as well, love. But you can't just he was.
But what you're saying, I hear what you're saying in the sense of it started from a passion.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of went rogue and it's like, which is dangerous because like I said, you can not all things that you would say were good. If it's not of God, it's not good. And that's what I had to learn. So even though my love was from a pure place, like I'm not. One thing about me is I've never lied. You get me? So even when I was lied in a relationship.
Oh, okay, cool.
So when I mean lied in a relationship, even when I was a trash, girls want to say talk to multiple boys or Nigerian, whatever they want to say when I was young, I would never actually, me and my boy, we always used to say, I would never tell you I liked you.
Okay.
I would let you believe what you want to believe.
So it's like manipulation.
It's evil. It's evil. But I would, what, this is what I'm trying to say. It's peak, it's twisted. In a sense of, I never would say like, like, if she's asked me, Rah, do you like me? I'll be like, I care about you. You get me? But hold on. This would be that. I'll be like, I care about you. Like, you're important to me, but I don't know if I have feelings. Okay. So I would never actually say those words. I would never. There was always something in my heart that said I wouldn't say I like you or all of these different types of aspects, right?
Even though you like them.
I didn't like them.
Oh, you didn't like them?
Well, this is when I was trash. Well, trash. I don't say. I just want to talk to multiple girls. Being honest, like when I was in secondary school and all of these, sixth form and that, early sixth form and that. But then when I got to closer to God, it was like I didn't have a strong relationship with God, but I had a decent. But I wasn't consistent with God, like I said before. But I still wanted to care. Like I still wanted to love someone. So I was almost in this aspect of, even though it might have not been God's will, beneficial, I was thinking, nah, man, I got a good heart now. Yeah. You get me? Now I can actually like someone and tell someone I like someone and mean it. Because before it was always just, I wouldn't tell you I liked you. I just pretend I liked you. But now I'm actually saying I can like someone. And when I like someone, I'm on this Bridgerton thing. I'm on this, I got passion. I'll do them picnics and all of those things there. So why that was dangerous is because if it wasn't from God, let's say not even Christian, or the girl wasn't even Christian like that, I started prioritizing the relationship above God. Okay. So what happened is, why this was a big turning point was for me, because I was in I've been in a long relationship before where basically God wasn't the center of it. Okay. You get me? So because God wasn't the center of it, I just kind of fell back. And then when it ended, I was in a very down place because I love hard, so you're gonna fall hard when it doesn't work out. You know what I'm trying to say? Right. So the reason I mentioned that point is because that's always been was always my main problem in those early stages, in terms of I would love hard, I would catch feelings hard, but when it doesn't work, and I'll prioritize that love above God. I used to tell myself, you know, it's crazy. I used to chatter, like, me and my boy, like, I would tell my boy, like, if I could do like Bible study with her, or I could, if I could do that, hey, let's keep it real today. Like, if I could just like, to bring her to church, so like, you get me, like, everything can change. But you see, when they don't have a relationship with God themselves, it's peak. So basically, it's like I would be trying to get them closer to God, but they're just getting closer to me. And because they love this whole, you get me, oh, you're good. Remember, they will love it, but then it will be peak because it's like you're sticking close to each other and you're actually good people. Then when it's done and it pulls away, let's say you stick something hard together, pulling away is gonna hurt even more. So it hurt, bro. It hurt a couple of times, and those were parts of my Christian my Christian walk where it's definitely affecting my relationship with God, because there was times I should be talking to God, I would be talking to her, or you know what I'm saying, and I kind of just went for a mad thing. No,
I hear it, man. No, thank you for being transparent, bro. Appreciate it.
Don't clip me on TikTok, you know. Make sure you give them context if we're gonna clip a certain bit before you try to finish me in that. I'll bring receipts.
Okay, cool. So let's just 2 more questions. Let's just talk about your music. So would you say you're a Christian artist, or like in your music that you produce, would you call yourself like a Christian artist, or would you say that you're just for everyone? Like,
yeah, man, I think you're called to be, you know, to be a light of the world. It doesn't say be a light of Christians, to be a light of the world. So Matthew 5:16, let your light shine to others. That's just my main aspect, that whether that be Christians, whether that be non-world, my whole focus is always trying to get the one. I feel like the 99, we focus on them, but sometimes I feel like, especially in music, we forget about the one. So I'm always trying to figure out how I can, you know, be a light, but then make them, you know, see that and understand it. Because the whole thing is, I feel like a lot of artists and a lot of, you know, sometimes Christians, they forget, like, they don't know what you're talking about. Okay. They don't know anything, in the sense of, not in a rude way, they don't know anything, but like, they don't, sometimes it's like, you have to give them something they can be like, rah, this is kind of deeper. Like, you get me? So I wouldn't say you can call me a Christian artist. People call me a Christian artist, but when you ask me, I just say I'm an artist and I'm a Christian. I'm an artist who's a Christian. I rap my life. God is my life, so I rap about God. Like I don't feel like you say, you get me. I'm a Christian. You lawyer or something. You say I'm a lawyer. I'm a Christian. Like so, I just always try to say like, whatever I do, it's always going to be God-centered. I don't like the idea that you have to call me a Christian because you're going to say me I'm Christian university student. No, I'm Christian. I'm Christ is me. You get me? That doesn't define me. It's like you can't say like, you get me? Oh, this is me. This is my life. You get me? I'm Christian. So if you want to put it there, you can. I'm not going to argue with you, but I just say I'm an artist who's a Christian. So yeah, my music, in a sense of that, has always just been. I've always had that freedom in a sense that I've never felt obligated to have to sound like John 4:25 says yeah, you get me? For God so loved the world, so you got to be saved. I never felt like, not saying, you could do that if you want to do that, but I never felt like I needed to do that because one thing my brother always told me is your altar isn't your music, your altar is your life. In terms of, these men that are spitting these bars, how much they're strong in their relationship with God. So I don't ever feel like I have to compare myself with them. I don't ever feel like, I used to do, I won't be like, sometimes I used to feel like, I don't want people to feel like I'm not on fire as God as them and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. But when you get more strong in your identity in Christ, you feel more free to be that. So a lot of the times if you listen to my music, I might rap about gal and I rap about gal, I rap about violence. So like you said, knife in the hand, Bible in the hand, because that's me, and those are the things the young G's and people can relate to. See, one thing that's beautiful about Christ is, regardless if you're Christian or not, there's always the underlying principles that never change, in a sense of you always want loyalty, in a sense of you always want loyalty to the man them. So you want to be loved, you don't want fake, you get me? So as Christians, I'll be like, you get me, man? I'll be like, loyal to the man them, I can never change. Me and my bro went through that. That's how I know he's a brother. That's a scripture there saying brother born from adversity. They're singing that, and then I'll put God in it. I'll throw God in it, and then next thing you know, they're rapping about it. And I didn't know how effective that was until the end of maybe 3 years ago, where when you get those Spotify raps. I got bare people would send me that was in their top fives and that, and they wouldn't be. A lot of them weren't Christians, and then I say half of them weren't Christians, and then I remember one guy going like, bro, you don't know how much you've helped me spiritually. And I think I only dropped Church Boy. I was thinking, bro, I was just saying you want to dance with a church? I was thinking, but I think what that did is they kind of saw me and saw this is someone that kind of strong in their identity in Christ, where I don't want to say per se cool, but he's just doing his thing, and it's he's able to walk in Christ. And I think they saw the confidence and freedom I had in Christ, and they loved it, and it kind of made them want to say maybe this God thing isn't because I think a lot of I think a lot of young G's or just people who are not saved don't want to go into God because they think it's kind of scary. It's serious.
It's like a strict thing.
If you go, you mess up, you're finished. But you see me, I always try to be like a walking light, like a walking transparent. You ain't got to be perfect. You just got to be real. You get what I'm saying? So. And one person, I remember they DM'd me on Twitter. I was like, bro, how you were so happy? How you so happy? And that made me realize sometimes it's not even about the words you say, it's about your fruits. You get me? It's about your fruits, and you showing God's love in you, you showing God's joy in you. And I was just going, it's God, bro. Uzbek is God, bro. So sometimes I don't feel like I need to do that in my music. I just feel like I just need to show just God's love in me. You get me? And just be a walking example of that.
I agree with you, because I think even Omar preached a sermon, and I think he spoke about Christ isn't your first priority, he's your life, innit? I don't know if you were there. I don't know if you were there, but
probably
but yeah. So another was I feel like you're as a Christian, God isn't just a priority. He's actually your life. He becomes your life.
It's you,
you know what I'm saying? So
when you say Christian rap, I'm like, what is really what is that? You get me? Because now you're trying to say if I didn't say John, you get me? Philippians 4:30 in my bar, I'm not Christian. What? You kind of categorize me off what I say. You should categorize me in my heart. You get what I'm trying to say? So I think it's important to be careful with those terms. However, if you did call me that, I don't mind. I don't but the only reason sometimes I don't like that is because
you put them in a box.
Put me in a box. You get me? In the sense of I don't want anyone to ever feel like they can't listen to me. Because there's something one thing I've learned is there's something so powerful about music in terms of when I was doing nonsense, I was listening to, naturally you'll be listening to drill. Sometimes I want to bump a train barrier and I'll put on 410 just to make sure. And I literally have Maverick City playing, Just so I didn't feel bad, I would literally put on like, this is real rap. I'll put on like M-Dog, or I don't know if you don't know, but I'll put on like a gang. You get me? Like bump it. Then I'll just gas me. You get me? Like, but I used to do so many, and that's why I realized music is powerful in the sense of your influence. So we can't just limit music to just Christians. Otherwise, you're doing it a disservice. You can't limit it to like just people who are saved. You're doing it a disservice. That's why you see me at events in the world, and you'll see me performing there, and you'll see me being a light, and you'll see me. That's why I love people who's able to bridge the gap between the two, because now when you do those events and you do those things. Like a good example is when me and my boy went to Maggie. She's an influencer, and she did a worship night, and we've been to bare worship nights before that. But this one, I think she kind of got saved, and she was kind of new, and she invited all of her non-believer friends kind of. And when she did the altar call, you saw bare people go to the front, and I was like. It was mad, but the statement was basically like, if she wasn't in the world, she wouldn't have been able to make that biggest impact to create. So what that made me realize is I have to go in there, not become one of them, but be able to relate with them and then bring them out.
Remember what the scripture says? Paul said, "I become all things so I can bring some."
You get me, man? It's not just talking. These are scriptures. You get me? So what I always try to do is, if you want to do music or you want to be a Christian creative or you want to do all those things, understand the market, understand the people you're going to. I stand on. Understand the people you're going to, understand the people that you got to relate to. Obviously, be real to yourself. If God's telling you to do John 15:27, do that, because obviously you can make an impact in different aspects. But I'm saying if you really want to bridge the world as well, make sure you're able to understand the world. No one wants to listen to you if they feel like you don't understand them. It's why many people listen to the rappers that say, I get all the girls and all of the, because they want to get all the girls. They want to. So when they're looking at you, let them see someone that you can say that, oh, okay, I can understand why you do that, rather than feeling so different. Yes, you can be set apart, but don't let set apart make you be confused about saying you can never be relatable to. That's why a lot of Christians, their favorite scripture is he who cast the first stone, because they feel like we just judge them and we don't understand them. But obviously there's a difference between judging and correction. Won't get into that. What I'm trying to say is just make sure you let them know that you understand them, you're able to relate with them, and then be able to help them.
I just got a serious revelation from God. Like, as a Christian, you're not meant to mind the gap. You're meant to bridge the gap.
Yeah.
So it's like as a Christian, you're not meant to like actually basically mind the gap. Whereby you're not trying to go into their territories. You're actually meant to go to that place, influence them, and bring them to Christ.
But it's hard, bro. Oh, I've been finished in this thing. They've called me a fraud. They've called he ain't saved. You get things that will make you question yourself at times. And when I church,
so is it like Christians that says that? Or
Christians, bro. You think it says it, bro? Christians, bro. They've. You see me like.
And how do you react to it when they tell you that?
That's what I'm saying. These were early times when I was first getting it, and I felt like I was hurt because I was thinking. But I remember like they would see me and they'll be like, "Your music's hard, bro," but like. Well, you're not doing this God thing, man. Like you get me there, and I'll be like, bro, like you don't even know me. You just heard me sing about a girl. Because sometimes what Christians don't do is sometimes they don't listen. So they just kind of heard like a bar and they don't know what I'm actually saying. So I got a bar that says my ex thing said that I changed. That's true. Don't think I'm thinking about my ex. I'm saying I changed. I found God, and they don't listen. So they've called me art. And the sad thing as well is there's a lot of Christians that have kind of been in the media that have kind of been outed, for like being like fake and So I feel like they just don't trust when something looks too cool or looks too not cool but cool. Like in that sense, it's like they might think. There's a different agenda. He's trying to be, get me this or that. He's trying to be a penguin.
But you're just trying to be you, bro.
That's me all the time. Like even the way I talk. Some people say, oh, you talk like you're trying to tell a story. But I promise you, this is how I talk. This is how I talk on a normal day-to-day. I will talk like I'm reading a book. But I'm not trying to be. But for some reasons, Christians, when they can't understand it, they want to judge it. I clip that on TikTok. Clip that on TikTok. You get me?
That was deep.
But you get me? They don't understand it. They judge it. So I felt like because they didn't understand me, they didn't take the time. Even my brothers, they finished my brother. Some of his old posts. Go look at his comments. Some of them like, tell a big scripture. You can't be called to be in the world. I'm thinking, brother, he's rapping about I can't wait to go heaven. You get me? Like, but what I'm trying to say is sometimes you got to be ready to kind of be strong in your identity, hear the word, but not feel be affected by it, not be influenced by it, and then you'll be able to thrive. And then God's been blessing me, so I can't complain.
At the end of it, you're meant to please God, not people, innit? So
Galatians 1:10. If I cared about the opinions of man, I wouldn't be a servant of God. You know what I mean?
Okay, cool. So give a word of encouragement. This is the last one. Give a word of encouragement for people who are trying to people who are trying to like better their life, maybe even in a career or maybe in their relationship with God. So just give a word of encouragement.
A word of encouragement for anyone just basically just trying to better themselves in life. All right. Let me see what God's. I think the only word I can really give you is, cool. My brother's a minister, yeah. My other brother. I remember one time I was going through a mad thing, like, bro, life was just peak. Like it was terrible, and I went to him, and I went to him for him to tell me something peak. I wanted this like a kind of cert I need. I was like, bro, it's peak right now, and I called him, and I was kind of hoping for something that would make me get motivated and da. And he only said one line. And why I love this line is because I could give you a peak sermon right now or amazing scripture, but sometimes that just doesn't do it. That just doesn't work in the sense of your life you could remember it, but after 2 days you might feel overwhelmed again. You get me? And then you're back to square one. So what he told me was, I said, I'm going through the mad thing, and he was just like, bro, I'll be real. I'm going through the mad thing as well. He was like, sometimes you just got to soldier it and hold on to God. He said that. He said, soldier it and hold on to the promises of God. I said, brother, you get me now? He's like, what are you going to tell me? He didn't say nothing. Soldier it and hold on to the promises of God. I should say that. So my word of encouragement to you is this. Whatever you're going through, whether it be bad, whether it be good, whether it be overwhelming, one thing you got to do sometimes is you got to soldier it and hold on to the promises of God. Endurance, there's a reason for it. It brings faith. There's a reason for all your situations you're going through right now, but our God is never a God that will leave us. Our God is not a God that will forsake us. And sometimes I think we forget the power of those words. So I'm not trying to say, oh, it's going to be better tomorrow. It's going to be better. It might be a couple weeks before you actually get out of that hard situation. A couple months, couple years. I'm not going to lie to you. It's peak out here. Of course, it's peak out here. You get me? But soldier it. What you got is you got a God that's greater than the world. And then you can hold on to those promises. You get me?
But yeah, thank you guys for tuning to a Christian podcast. I told you this was going to be a very transparent and powerful episode. Follow YT on TikTok, Insta.
LinkedIn? Nah, man. So you don't want to see me. You trying to get me? But unless you're a CEO or something. Alright,
cool. So Insta, TikTok. And honestly, thank you guys for tuning in. It was a very powerful episode. It was good to have you on. I knew it was going to be a powerful episode. Like, I remember I fasted for this episode. These episodes. Yeah. And then
so funny.
And then when I was planning the episodes, I was just so gassed, bro. Like I was just when I was planning, I just got that passion back. You know what I'm trying to say? So I just thank God for your life.
Thank you for having me, bro. It's an honor.
On, bro.
I know I've been slow. This guy, he will tell you 2 p.m. every morning, every afternoon. But I appreciate it, bro. I really do. Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me, bro.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
Trust me.
See you guys later. Bye. Peace out.
Yeah?
Yeah, man. Well done, Reuben. What did I say?
Shout out properly.
You want to do the outro again? Are you going to do the outro again?
No. I'm not doing it.
I thought I was steady.